What if the Bible is stranger than any story you've ever heard? What if, behind every sacred page, there are riddles so wild, so unsettling, most preachers never even whisper them? Are you ready to stand face to face with the mysteries and divine enigmas that have left prophets breathless? Imagine an ancient Bible trembling under candlelight. The old pages shiver as a low, haunting melody drifts through the darkness. You hear a heartbeat, a faint, mysterious whisper. Light flickers across ink-stained verses, revealing what looks like a treasure map. Secrets, warnings, questions never meant for timid eyes. Tonight, you and I will open the vault. We'll step into a world where faith and fear, hope and doubt collide. Where stone speaks, where monsters roam, where messages burn into palace walls and angels ride on wheels covered in eyes. This isn't a sermon, it's a midnight journey. Just two friends unraveling the Bible's strangest riddles. Some of these mysteries have been hidden for centuries. Some are so strange they've been locked away out of sight. But all of them are real, and all of them are waiting for someone bold enough to ask, what if there's more beneath the story? If you're ready to question, to wonder, to imagine, let's turn the page together. Drop a comment if you've ever stumbled on a Bible verse that made you stop and stare. Like and subscribe to the Prophecy Vault for more journeys into the unknown. Now, take a breath, because the strangest stories of faith are about to begin. Are you ready to see the story beneath the story? How would you react if God spoke through objects, animals, or even a mysterious hand on the wall? What if, in a single night, the laws of reality were upended, and the world you trusted became strange, wholly unpredictable? Let's open the vault of divine mysteries, where heaven brushes the edges of earth, and eternity leaves its fingerprints in places you'd least expect. Picture this. The desert night is silent. David, the warrior poet, stands with his men under the stars. Every sound is magnified. The crackle of a dying fire, a breath held in hope. In his hand, pressed close to his heart, the Urim and Thummim. Two radiant stones hidden in the priest's breastplate. Some call them the original hotline to heaven. You don't just ask any question. You ask the kind that splits the road of fate. Should we go to battle? Should I trust? Should I run? David's voice trembles as he whispers to the priest, "Bring me the ephod." 1 Samuel 23. The stones shimmer in the darkness. Time slows. A pulse, a breath, the hush before heaven speaks. The answer glows, not in words, but in certainty. Go. Save Keilah. Imagine that moment, every heartbeat caught between ruin and rescue. Would you dare to trust a sign you cannot see, or would doubt claw at your chest? But the sacred stones are only the beginning. Travel east, down ancient roads, where the dust clings to a man's sandals and the sun burns with judgment. Here walks Balaam, a prophet for hire, burdened by greed, riding his loyal donkey. The king of Moab wants curses hurled at Israel, but something else waits on this crooked path. The donkey slows, then stops. Balaam, blind with ambition, doesn't see the sword-wielding angel blocking the way. The donkey veers, presses tight against a wall, crushes Balaam's foot. Pain, frustration. He strikes her again and again. But the road narrows to a sliver of earth. Nowhere left to go. The donkey collapses, refusing to move. Balaam's anger explodes, but suddenly, in the heat and dust, the impossible happens. The donkey turns, and God opens her mouth. "What have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times?" The words hang, trembling in the air. Balaam answers, shocked, still not seeing the danger he's been spared. And then the Lord opens his eyes, and Balaam falls to his knees before the angel. Sometimes the voice of heaven that comes not as thunder, but as the quiet rebuke of a creature we dismiss. Have you ever wondered if the interruptions in your life, the delays, the detours, might be a divine warning or mercy in disguise? Have you ever missed the sign because you were too busy cursing the inconvenience? But there are mysteries that come not to warn, but to judge. Now, step into the heart of Babylon. Marble floors, golden goblets, laughter rising like incense. King Belshazzar, drunk with power, demands the holy vessel stolen from the temple of God. He drinks wine, toasts to idols, mocks the unseen. And then it happens. A hand, only a hand, appears, writing on the plaster of the palace wall. 4 words, glowing in the flickering torchlight. Mene, mene, tekel, parsin. The music dies. The dancers freeze. Belshazzar's face turns to ash. His knees buckle. He cannot read the words. None of his wise men can. The queen remembers Daniel, the old exile, the prophet with luminous wisdom. Daniel enters. He stands in the hush, reads the words. God has numbered your days and brought them to an end. You have been weighed and found wanting. Your kingdom is divided. That very night the city falls. Power is stripped away like a mask. Sometimes the hand of God writes not in blessings, but in warnings that change the world forever. Have you ever felt in a moment of crisis that reality itself was trembling? That the writing was on the wall, and everything you trusted could vanish in an instant? The mysteries of the Bible are not just tales for the ancient world. They are echoes that haunt every generation. The urge to seek a sign, the fear of the unknown, the desperate longing for a voice from beyond. Think of the times you've waited for a diagnosis, for a phone call, for a decision that would change your life. Haven't you found yourself wishing for a message, a sign, a stone that glows in the night, or a voice that breaks the silence? And what would you do if it actually came? Would you believe, or would you question everything? God spoke through stones, through the mouth of a donkey, through a hand that shattered the pride of kings. Sometimes the message was comfort. Sometimes it was warning. Always it was meant to call hearts back to awe. Maybe tonight you're holding a question in your heart. Maybe you're desperate for a sign, for a direction, for hope. If so, you're standing with David in the desert, with Balaam on the broken road, with Belshazzar trembling in the firelight. If heaven spoke now, would you listen, or would you look away? So, have you ever wished for a sign from above? And what would you do if it truly arrived? As the lights fade from gold to violet, as the drums echo softly, and the camera draws closer to a searching gaze, remember this. In the moments we least expect, heaven can touch earth and everything can change. The story isn't over. The next mystery is waiting. Will you follow? What if God's command seemed not just difficult, but utterly bizarre? What if the path to the holy meant walking through strangeness, through rules and revelations that seemed to defy logic, even compassion, until you looked deeper? Sometimes the sacred slips in sideways, arriving not as thunder, but as a whisper you don't yet understand. It's late. The desert is cold. Imagine a small fire flickering beneath a star-swept sky. A pot bubbles on the coals. An old woman's hands, dark and steady, stirs goat's milk, watching her grandchild play nearby. This is life as it always was, until a new commandment falls from heaven. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. Exodus chapter 23:18, 34:26. Deuteronomy, a simple meal forbidden, no explanation, no thunder, just a rule that feels, on its face, both strange and strangely precise. Why this? Of all things, why this one dish? Generations would puzzle over it. Some say it was to separate God's people from neighboring pagan rites, an act of sacred distinction. Others see a deeper kindness. Don't twist what nourishes into what destroys. Don't turn the mother's gift into her child's undoing. Even in the kitchen, respect the silent bonds of life. Picture it, night after night. Families gathering around fires, retelling the story. Why did God care so much about a small act in a world full of violence and hunger? Maybe because the little things, the private things, the acts repeated in darkness or habit, reveal more of our hearts than any public sacrifice. We are asked not just to obey, but to notice. To see the invisible thread, milk, life, woven through the fabric of creation, to honor it, even when we don't fully understand. And isn't that the point of faith sometimes? Not perfect understanding, but faithful trust. Obedience, not to force, but to the mystery that kindness, even unseen, matters to God. Have you ever been challenged by a rule or a moment you couldn't understand, only to realize its deeper purpose later, sometimes years down the line? The Bible's strange commands are not always about power or control. Sometimes they are about teaching us to see the holy in places we would overlook. Now let's shift the scene. Thunder shakes the sky. The summit of Sinai disappears into cloud and fire. Lightning etches the stone. A lone figure climbs higher, robes whipped by the wind, heart thundering as loud as the heavens. Moses. For years, he has spoken with God as a man speaks to a friend. Yet he wants more than manna, more than miracles, more than law. He wants to see the glory, the raw radiance, the face behind the voice. Moses whispers his plea, "Please show me your glory." Exodus 33:18. The air stills. Even angels seem to draw back. God answers, not with denial, but with a limit as tender as it is terrifying. "I will make all my goodness pass before you, but," the voice says, "you cannot see my face, for no one may see me and live." Exodus 33:19-20. On the mountaintop, the presence comes near, closer than ever, close enough to feel the weight of holiness. God hides Moses in a cleft of the rock, covers him with his hand, then lets him see only the afterglow, the lingering presence, the back of glory as it slips past. Imagine the tension, longing for intimacy met with awe-inspiring distance, a love so fierce it would destroy you if it came unfiltered. Have you ever reached for something so great, so beautiful, that it could break you to touch it? Have you ever prayed for a revelation, only to realize your soul could not bear the full answer? Sometimes the most merciful answer is a partial glimpse, the beauty that does not shatter, but transforms. Moses descends, his face blazing, the people unable to look at him, the echo of glory lingering long after the cloud is lifted. Maybe that's how holiness works. We long for the face, but must be content with the trace, the passing brilliance, the glory too much left on the path behind God. And then, centuries later, another man kneels, not on stone, but on dust. Jerusalem, a morning heavy with accusation. A woman is dragged into the circle, thrown down at Jesus' feet. Her sin is known, her shame public. The law is clear. Stone her, they demand. But Jesus does not answer at first. He kneels, draws in the dust, his finger tracing mysteries the crowd cannot read. Silence falls heavy. He stands, his words cut through centuries. "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." John 8:7. No lightning, no thunder, just a pause, so pregnant with mercy, so full of holy discomfort that one by one, stones drop to the ground. The accusers leave, oldest to youngest. The woman stands, heart pounding. Jesus looks up. Woman, where are your accusers? She answers, No one, Lord. Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. The law was not erased. The command was not forgotten. But mercy rewrote the story, not by denying justice, but by calling forth the possibility of a new beginning. Imagine standing in that crowd. Would you have stayed or dropped your stone and slipped away? Would you have watched Jesus' hand in the dust, trying to guess the words he wrote? Maybe you've been the accuser, eager for justice, blind to your own need for grace. Maybe you've been the accused, waiting for the blow, only to find yourself met by forgiveness instead. God's ways are not our ways. The rules that confound us, the revelations that overwhelm us, the moments that make us question everything we know, these are the places where faith comes alive. Faith is not certainty. Faith is the courage to kneel beside the fire, to climb the mountain, to stand in the circle and risk everything on a word of mercy. It is the humility to follow commands that don't make sense in the moment, the audacity to ask for a vision you can barely endure, and the tenderness to forgive in ways that break every tradition. Think of the rules and rituals in your own life, the family stories, the warnings, the never do this moments that seemed odd until life taught you why. Think of the times you were called to do something that seemed senseless until it saved you or shaped you or opened your heart to someone else's pain. Maybe, like Moses, you've prayed for more. Maybe you've begged to see God's glory, to have every doubt answered, every fear erased. And maybe, if you listen close, you'll find that the real answer is a glimpse, a grace, a quiet light you carry down from the mountain into the waiting world. Or maybe, like that woman, you found yourself in a place of shame, surrounded by ears that judge, voices that accuse. And maybe, at the lowest point, you felt a hand reach down, a presence rewrite your story, not with condemnation, but with hope. God's ways are not our ways. Sometimes the command is not to understand, but to obey. Sometimes the answer is not the face, but the shadow of the presence that passes by. Sometimes the victory is not in casting the stone, but in setting it down. Have you ever been challenged by a rule, a revelation, a moment you couldn't understand, only to realize its deeper purpose later? As the wind rises and the light shifts across your face, remember, the journey with God is rarely straightforward. The next mystery awaits, just beyond the shadow, where faith takes the place of sight and mercy rewrites the law in dust and glory. Will you walk a little further, past the limits of reason, into the holy strangeness of the story? The page is turning. The next encounter is waiting. What if the Bible's greatest mysteries weren't just about people, but about the entire cosmos? What if the stories written on ancient scrolls were always meant to whisper truths, not just about earth and time, but about a universe far vaster than any human eye can see? Imagine, it's just before dawn. Outside your window, the world is holding its breath. And somewhere in that silence, thunder rolls across the horizon, a reminder that, like the pages of Scripture, the universe is always brimming with signs, riddles, warnings, and wonders. Let's begin with a fig tree. Not just any fig tree, but one that, in the Gospels, becomes the stage for a mystery. You see it first on a quiet morning. dew clinging to the leaves, sun just rising above the hills outside Jerusalem. Jesus, hungry, comes near. He searches the branches for fruit, finds none, and then, unexpectedly, almost abruptly, he speaks. "May no one ever eat fruit from you again?" Mark 11:14. By the next day, the tree stands withered, its leaves shriveled, its life gone. It's easy to ask, why curse a tree, especially when it wasn't even the season for figs? But this moment isn't about the tree. It's about the thin line between appearance and reality, show and substance. The fig tree was lush, all outward signs of life. But when inspected up close, it had nothing to offer. No fruit, just show. How many times do we move through life hoping our leaves are enough? Hoping that if we look alive, no one will notice how empty we feel inside. In the Bible, the fig tree is more than a tree. It's a warning. Don't settle for appearances. Let your roots run deep. Let your life bear fruit. Because in the end, what matters isn't what others see, but what you truly are. Thunder cracks again, reminding us that every life, every generation, faces a day when the roots are tested. But some mysteries are more terrifying than a withered tree. Revelation speaks of something called the second death, a lake of fire, a place where death itself is swallowed up, where lost souls meet an ending more final than anything this world can offer. Anyone whose name was not found written in the book of life was thrown into the lake of fire, Revelation 20. It's a chilling image. Hell, not just as punishment, but as erasure, final, irreversible, a darkness where light is never seen again. But even this is not just a warning about fear. It's a cosmic question. What do you want your story to be when all is said and done? What legacy, what memory, what mark will remain of you in the book of life? Sometimes the scariest part of the Bible isn't the monsters or the miracles. It's the echo of our own longing not to be forgotten. And just as the image of fire burns across the last page of Scripture, another mystery stands quietly at the crossroads of history, a figure as silent as the stars. His name is Melchizedek. He appears in Genesis like a shadow slipping between worlds. No father, no mother, no lineage recorded, just bread, wine, and a blessing for Abraham, the wanderer. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High. Genesis 14:18. Imagine the scene. A lonely plain, night falling, the hush after battle. A stranger approaches. His presence is ancient, unsettling, like meeting someone you half remember from a dream. He offers bread and wine, a gesture that will echo centuries later in an upper room in Jerusalem. Some say Melchizedek is a glimpse of eternity dropped into history, a living link between the old world and the new, a reminder that the boundaries between now and forever are thinner than we think. He's the priest nobody expected, the king whose story is all mystery, who points to something greater, a priesthood that never ends. In Hebrews, the New Testament circles back to him. He is without father or mother or genealogy. Resembling the Son of God, he continues a priest forever. Hebrews 7:3. What if your life, too, is a link in a story you can barely see? What if you are the living bridge, a momentary crossing point where old wounds can be healed and new hope can be born? As we move deeper into this cosmic mystery, the visions grow stranger, wilder, more than human. In the book of Ezekiel, a storm breaks open the sky, flames, wheels within wheels, a living chariot that glows with 1,000 eyes. Lightning arcs across the heavens. 4 living creatures appear, each with 4 faces: human, lion, ox, eagle, their wings outstretched, their gaze everywhere. The wheels are covered in eyes, watching, knowing, turning in every direction without turning at all. Ezekiel 1. It's a vision that feels more like science fiction than Sunday school. And yet, here it is, at the very heart of Scripture. What does it mean? Ezekiel's wheels remind us the universe is watched, known, connected. Nothing is random. No cry goes unheard. God's presence is never far. The eyes see all, the joy, the pain, the victories no one else celebrates, the wounds no one else sees. Maybe you've felt that, the sense of being watched over, even in your darkest nights. Or maybe you've feared it, knowing that every hidden thing will one day come to light. Ezekiel's vision is both awe and comfort. The storm may roar, the world may burn, but in the center there is order, attention, presence. A God who rides the whirlwind and knows every face. But the mysteries don't end with wheels and eyes. The Bible is alive with creatures that haunt the edge of imagination. Leviathan, Behemoth, Reem. Job 1 gives us Leviathan, a sea monster wreathed in smoke, scales impenetrable, fire flickering from its mouth. Nothing on earth is its equal, a creature without border. Demiscuous fear. Job 41:30. Leviathan thrashes in the deep, untamable, a living symbol of chaos. You can't bridle it, can't defeat it. Only God can master the wild things of this world. Behemoth is no less daunting. Behold now Behemoth, which I made along with you. He eats grass like an ox. His bones are tubes of bronze, his limbs like bars of iron. He stands on the riverbank, unshakable, power rippling beneath his skin, a living fortress. Some see a hippopotamus or elephant, but the language rises higher. This is myth and reality fused, creation at its most powerful. And then there is the Reem, often translated as wild ox, sometimes as unicorn, an untamable force known for its wild freedom and power. Will the Reem be willing to serve you or spend the night by your manger? Job 39:9. In these creatures, God answers Job not with explanation, but with awe. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Job 38:4. Who are you in the face of such mystery to demand answers from the maker of all things? The Bible's monsters are not just fantasy. They are the world's wild heart, the powers beyond our control, the chaos that only the Creator can bring into order. And isn't that what we all face in one way or another? The fears too big to name, the forces we can't control, the storms that sweep us off our feet. Sometimes we feel like fig trees, empty inside, afraid our roots are too shallow. Sometimes we fear the second death, afraid to be forgotten, erased, lost to darkness. Sometimes we dream of being Melchizedek, a bridge, a blessing, a name that echoes past the boundaries of our own life. Sometimes we just want to know that someone sees us, even when we feel like a speck in the cosmos. But what if that's the real story? What if, in the tapestry of stars and storms, eyes and wheels, monsters and kings, every life is counted, every cry is heard? What if the universe is full of signs, some terrifying, some beautiful, all pointing back to a truth as old as creation? You are not forgotten. The same God who commands Leviathan, who rides the storm, who watches with 1,000 eyes, also sees you right here, right now. And maybe that's why these mysteries matter, not just to dazzle or frighten us, but to call us deeper, to live honestly, bear fruit, bridge the gaps between generations, trust in something larger than ourselves. Where do you see yourself in this tapestry? Are you the seeker, the doubter, the one waiting for a sin, the fig tree, the scribe, the storm watcher, the wanderer on the plain. If you have ever felt small, lost, or overlooked, remember the fig tree. Even what withers can warn and awaken. Remember the book of life. Your story matters. Your name is worth fighting for. Remember Melchizedek. A moment of blessing can echo through centuries. Remember the wheels and eyes. Nothing is hidden. No path is forgotten. And remember Leviathan, Behemoth, Reem. Whatever you cannot control, there is one who can. Thunder fades, the storm rolls away, the sun climbs the sky. You are part of this cosmic story, a mystery, a miracle, a line in the song of the universe. The silence settles, music drifts soft, your face, your journey, your longing, all of it known. And as the scene draws to a close, as the light catches your eyes, a final question hangs in the air. Will you step into the mystery, embrace your part in this wild and wonderful story, and trust that in all the chaos and wonder, you are seen, remembered, and deeply, eternally loved? The cosmic story continues. Let's turn the page together. The Bible is not just a book of answers. It is a door into awe, fear, wonder, and a grace that will not let you go. Its strangest stories, the ones that leave us speechless, are not meant to confuse or frighten. They are signposts reminding us that real faith is not about having everything figured out. It's about staying humble, staying hungry, letting yourself be surprised. Every page, every question, every wild image, they pull us deeper, inviting us to wonder, to wrestle, and to trust that the mystery itself is part of the message. Maybe that's the gift, not answers, but the courage to live inside questions, to look at the handwriting on your own wall and dare to ask, what does it mean for me? So as this old book closes for tonight, as the last candle flickers and the ancient stories settle into your heart, let the image linger. The glow on a page, the echo of thunder, the feeling that you have not reached the end, but the beginning of a greater adventure. Will you settle for easy answers, or will you dare to wrestle with the strange and wonderful mysteries, the riddles that pull you closer to the divine? What story will you carry with you after tonight? What question will you live out tomorrow? If one of these mysteries whispered to you, share your story in the comments. Tell us which wonder made you pause, which riddle made you hope, or which miracle gave you chills. Subscribe and join this circle of seekers, where your questions matter, where your wonder is welcomed, where faith is a journey, not a destination. Like, comment, and share this journey with a friend who needs to remember that the Bible is a story still unfolding, a living invitation to wrestle, to hope, to dream, and to see the sacred hidden in the strange. As the page closes and your heartbeat returns to calm, know that every mystery is a doorway, and your story is still being written.